a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is BJ.
And my name is Mitu.
And this week, we're watching Extracted on Fox, the Åre Murders on Netflix, The Hunting Party on NBC, and Clean Slate on Prime Video.
So stay tuned to the end to find out how long BJ would land in the forest.
Ooh, I think you're hinting at one of the shows we watched this week.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us more?
In Extracted on Fox, 12 amateur survivalists compete for $250,000. Supporting them in the wild are two family members of their choosing whom they put in charge of their fate.
So I think this is a really interesting take on survival competitions. We have a bit of a Hunger Games style where 12 people out in the woods last as long as they can, but they're all supported by family and friends and the headquarters who are playing social games to win supplies for them.
I love that it's multiple games at once. It is the social game in the HQ because these families are going to have to do supply drop competitions with each other in order to get needed supplies to their family members in the forest. Then the people in the forest are going to have to do survivor trials or things in order to qualify for benefits out there. And then there's the additional game of them interacting with their own families because 100% there are relationships that will not make it through this.
Yes, they've set up the forest so there are cameras everywhere. We're always watching them. And each of the contestants has a personal camera that they are probably required to keep with them.
Yes.
But that's how they can talk to their family, even though their family can't talk back to them.
Which comes up pretty tough with little baby Anthony, 18 years old, has a very big temper tantrum. Mm-hmm. And his parents have some trouble with that. What I will say is Anthony was a frustrated 18-year-old. And so those are very big feelings that come up. Now, was he talking to his parents wildly? Yes. And I know Tony and Yolanda were very angry that they could not respond to Anthony. And thus, I think that he is in that forest and will be for longer than he even wants to be there because of how he mouthed off about the supplies that they sent him.
It's a very frustrating experience because they can't communicate. And as you said, he's 18, he's got a lot of emotions, and he's venting. Unfortunately, he's venting about his parents, and they can't have a conversation with him. And the element we should also add is the families in the headquarters are the ones that decide when the survivalists get extracted.
Yes.
So they have to say, I believe Anthony can last long enough for us to win the money, or they have to call it and say, get him out of there.
Like with Davina, who is a hairdresser and clown, and her sister and stepdaughter, and I say clown in the professional sense.
A real performing clown.
She is a professional clown, or maybe amateur, I'm not sure, but I saw her in a very cool clown costume. And her sister and stepdaughter, I believe, were her family members. While she seemed immediately over the experience, they wanted to push her to stay. And it didn't even necessarily seem for the money. It was like them saying she really needs to just go through this challenge and experience this thing, at least give it one night. Because it seemed like as soon as she touched down, she was ready for whatever dropped her off to pick her right back up. So that was interesting that they get to choose that despite her seeming absolute desire to leave.
That was a little tough, and I'm sure we'll see more of, because for Davina specifically, light spoiler, she has a bit of a breakdown out in the woods. And her family is watching this breakdown. I guess they want her to power through those emotions.
You can't spell breakdown without Woody. Woody, that man genuinely... Woody lost all sense of up and down. That was so fascinating because his son is a survivalist. And his, I think, nephew was the other person.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be as outdoorsy as the son, but was still much more aware than Woody. But for some reason,
who performs well under pressure.
Yes, but Woody is the one who goes into the forest. Unclear what's happening there. And I wonder if it's a little bit of production not telling them which of them is going into the woods, because it just seems like it makes the most sense for the son to be there. With that, one, Woody's son will never respect him after this program. That relationship has been forever marred by this.
Oh.
We see Woody about maybe 10 hours into being outdoors, fully give up on trying to start a fire and just decides to drink raw lake water, but really leans into it, just chugs it.
Chugs a full bottle and gets a refill.
And says out loud, "This isn't going to kill me. I'm going to get more."
That was when we really saw how dark it can get for people who are not built for survival.
For his body.
His body and for his family to watch after they provided him with some needed supplies.
They gave him the stuff to make a fire, to boil the water, and he said, I'm going to take the risk of this water coming out however it needs to later.
And he seemed to be struggling even before he got the supplies.
When his son said he can't even look at it without getting out of breath watching Woody try to make that fire, he said he's huffing and puffing, sitting still, holding a stick. And that's when I thought this must be in his head. Like, he is having a hard time emotionally handling his experience. I don't think the heavy breathing is from laying down. The heavy breathing was a stress response.
Yes, I think there's fear or panic, worry, and he's psyching himself out, and that's leading to very poor and dangerous choices. And I'd also like to add, it's interesting that there is no host. It truly is just these families, whether in the woods or in the HQ.
And I typically like to be guided through experiences like this, but I like that we dropped right in because, for example, when Anthony mouthed it off at the camera like that and we just got full time his mom's reaction, so no host trying to soften the blow, no one trying to sort of editorialize what is happening or even contextualize anything. We just fully get Anthony looking into the camera saying, who is the dumb person who packed this bag, knowing that that's his parents, and then his parents taking in that information, and then his mom fully reacting to that in that way. It made me think about if I was on camera saying anything remotely similar about my mother, I would ask to stay in the forest. I'd be like, you know what? I had an emotional moment. I was accidentally filmed saying some things I probably shouldn't have said in the heat of the moment. I'm a kid, but I'm going to need you to keep me here and not send me back to that building.
And what's interesting is it's not just that Anthony's saying it on camera, so, it'll be on national television. The shady producers, I'm calling them shady, there's a big screen in the HQ, so they decide which survivalists to really zoom in and project to everybody. So they showed Anthony's little temper tantrum, not just to his parents, but to all the other families.
Everybody in the room got a taste of that. And people were generous about it. One person genuinely said, this is an 18-year-old being an 18-year-old.
Yeah, that's tough. Y'all should pull him out. Quit.
But that was awkward.
Well, will you watch more episodes of Extracted on Fox to see awkward situations or just find out who wins?
Yes, I typically don't like survivalist games like this. It's a topic area that isn't as much of interest to me, probably should be increasingly so, but just isn't right now. That said, the social game part of this is so fascinating that if you like the social games like a Traitors or a Big Brother or even a Survivor where it really mixes that well, I think you'll like this one because it is just fascinating, the relationships between the people in the forest and the people in the HQ, and then the relationships interpersonally between the folks in the HQ, because we didn't even get to some of the competition between the families to get supplies to their people and what that means for their dynamics. So with all of that in mind, I would watch again seriously. I am eager to find out how all these relationships pan out.
You sound very excited.
Very fun.
I would watch again just casually. I think right now with the 12 families and each family is 3 people, it's a lot to keep up with. But I want to keep watching because once it narrows down to even half as many people, it'll be more interesting to see those dynamics, especially as you said, in the headquarters where they're competing in games for supplies for the survivalists.
All right. Well, why don't you take us from the survivalists to the Swedish ski mountains?
You're talking about the Åre Murders on Netflix or the Åre Murders, depends how you want to read it. This is about a detective named Hannah, played by Carla Sen, who leaves Stockholm for the remote city of Åre and discovers a missing girl case. So, Mitu, what did you think of our PD on break who picks up a case?
I really like the stories of there's a mysterious thing happening in town and I'm on vacation or I'm, taking myself out of the game and now I'm being sucked back into it because I'm such a good expert at these things. I love those kinds of stories and I feel like this is a pretty solid entry into that genre. And I like that we got some idea of how smart she is. I wish they did a little bit more of showing us her skill. Like typically on these shows, we'll watch them like wrap up a previous case or something, just something to indicate like how they're good at this. And I wish we got a bit of that.
That's fair. She is very casual as she enters into helping with this mystery. We get more about her leaving someone named Christian, and she's staying at her sister's home to take a break from work. And she gets an alert about this missing girl, Amanda, who we see throughout the episode and see what her family is doing to try and find her. But Hannah is very slow to ease into this new case, which is understandable. She's not assigned to it. This is all voluntary.
No, she just truly got pulled into it.
What did you think about the family and how they're handling this missing girl case?
So as a very light spoiler, truly a very light spoiler, the dad at the very beginning of the episode misses a call from his daughter. And that is the last known understanding of her whereabouts that we have. And so I thought it was interesting to watch him work through the guilt, especially because of what he was doing when he missed that call.
Yeah, you're hinting at something very big right there.
Yes, he was fully looking out, let's say, for his own interests at that time. And it's not that that's necessarily like the worst thing in the world. It just couldn't have been more poorly timed because he had an opportunity to possibly help his daughter. And now she's missing.
Right. That is very tough. And another light spoiler, he doesn't immediately tell everyone that his daughter tried to call him.
Mm-hmm.
So this leads to him being a little suspicious. I will say Amanda's friend is a little suspicious.
Uh-huh.
And even just people in town, everybody, even Hannah's a little suspicious. Why does she keep all the lights off?
Yes, I'm looking sideways at every single person in this town. And I think that typically makes for a more interesting mystery anyway, when it's like, we're a town of 35 people, everyone has their secrets. And so there's going to be like 20 people's secrets uncovered before we get to what the core mystery is, which is what happened to Amanda and where is she? And who did it?
That's a good point. This does seem like a show where Hannah is going to unearth just local mysteries and secrets as she searches for Amanda.
Because she's not from this town. I mean, this is just a vacation home her sister owns.
Yeah, and she's supposed to be relaxing, but she's going to snoop around in the snow and she's going to find out what people are doing.
And she seems to have uncovered more than the local PD in just a couple conversations.
Yeah, she was already giving tips. She's already getting recruited. They're like, well, if you're here, how about you just help?
And then she just jumps right in.
So I'd also want to mention this show has an English dub. So if you like English language options, we both chose that for convenience.
Yes, it was nice. I do think with the English dub, you probably, or definitely, I should say, miss some of the emotional delivery. Like, there were things that happened on screen and the way that people delivered lines that I can tell the English dub did not quite meet, though it was a pretty good dub, I would say.
Mm.
So that is the cost of that, but it is just so convenient to be able to hear it in English if you are an English speaker.
Yes, and I think there are other language options, so check your Netflix account.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you have the convenient way of watching this, will you continue with more episodes of the Åre Murders on Netflix?
I might watch again casually when I have, like, which I think I say for a lot of these mystery shows, an afternoon to myself to kind of uncover a lot at once. This first episode was 35 minutes, which is great because it's just much quicker storytelling than I'm accustomed to for these kinds of shows.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think the mystery was as intriguing as it could have been. And so I'm not necessarily clamoring for the next episode, but, you know, we have some pretty bad weather coming up next weekend. We have bad weather this weekend. So maybe this is just the right time.
Ah, I like that. I'm going to adapt your rating. I would say this is a would watch while folding laundry on a snow day.
Yeah.
I think a nice cold day where I'm inside, this could be interesting to watch Hannah uncover a mystery.
Because I do want to know more about Hannah, too. I was intrigued by her breakup.
Yeah, she is mysterious and suspicious. So how about you tell us about some more missing people?
You're talking about The Hunting Party on NBC. When an underground Wyoming prison explodes, the debris includes the release of the nation's worst serial killers. So, former FBI profiler Bex, played by Melissa Roxburgh, is brought back in alongside an elite team to track down these killers. Along the way, she also has mysteries to uncover about the secret prison itself.
Ooh, how mysterious.
Ooh, and very gritty.
I thought this was an interesting take on NBC coming in with a FBI agent who has the special skills to track down those killers. But in this case, it's the worst serial killers in history who have been presumed to be dead, but have been in a secret bunker.
I love in shows like this where there is that interrogation of like, okay, FBI, and it seems like the CIA is involved as well. You are doing this thing to possibly save lives, but also look at what's happened now. Look what you know, and look what's come of this. And we have that interaction between Bex and Jacob Hassani, played by Patrick Sabangi, who identifies himself initially as a White House official, but she pretty much sees through it immediately and is like, I don't know, you're CIA. When he does the math for her of like, we have this secret prison of these serial killers that people think are dead, and we do all this stuff, and it has made the world, I guess, safer. But Bex is like, now, how much safer are we that this explosion has happened?
And he said, it's still worth it if you do the math.
Yes, exactly. If you just do solid one-to-one human life math.
Yeah, easy. They have made the world a better place, and all we have to do is secretly clean this up. That's why Bex was brought in, because we can't just put on the news that all of these serial killers are back.
That are supposed to be dead.
Yes, which is interesting in this case of the week, because he, without going into too much spoilers, picks up where he left off when he was first captured.
Yes, and it seems like from the episode names, we're just going to be hunting a different serial killer each week.
Yeah, Killer of the Week, because they cleverly set it up where they're like, we're not sure how many prisoners escape, so they can go as long as they want.
Smart.
And it looked like a very big prison.
What I will say, though, is typically for shows like this, our argument is like, get to the action quicker, get to the story faster. We don't need so much background. In this one, I probably would have appreciated maybe a bit of background. And instead, it felt like almost like a action movie of a specific era, like an 80s, 90s action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Spy thriller situation where there is a twist at every turn. There is just every time we come around a corner, a new thing is revealed, and it is wilder than the last thing that was revealed. And there were moments where I was like, is this show amazing? Is it terrible? Is it so terrible it's amazing? Like, I just kept going back and forth at each new thing that came up. I almost felt like tired at the end.
I think those are fair questions to ask because there's essentially 3 major storylines. We have the case of the week with our serial killer, and that, as you said, had plot twists throughout the episode.
Until the last moments.
Up until the end, kept it going. Bex has her background because we see she used to be an FBI agent, and then she was just working at a casino, and then they call her back in, and she's constantly having flashbacks.
Several twists with that, too, including in the flashbacks.
And as you said, the CIA is there, and they are just dropping subtle hints about what the pit, this prison, is all about. So we're learning more about why they had these prisoners there as we go through the episode.
There were so many twists with that, too. I think there were at least 5 or 6 reveals.
If not more.
If not more. And that's just what I'm remembering as I tally them in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. There was a reveal in like the last 10 seconds where I just genuinely threw my hands up. I was like, okay. like I had fully a physical reaction like, all right, we got another one in just right before end credits.
I will say one of them at the end, which is probably not the one you're talking about, but it is at the end of the episode. I don't know how to say this without spoiling it, but if you look at the cast list, because sometimes IMDb and Wikipedia can really ruin things for you.
Yeah.
There's someone you expect to be more important, and so you can see it coming, which is a disappointment.
That's true. For shows like this, for twisty shows like this, you never want to look at the IMDb or the Wikipedia. Similarly, I feel like you and I will look at the summaries for shows like this and we'll see that like, you know, Tim or something is only credited for one episode. And you're like, okay, so I guess he dies in this first one.
Or you have like some big name actor and then they're like, actually, they're just guests or just recurring.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Won't be here long.
Yeah, I get what's coming.
Well, now that you know what's coming, or not with all these twists, will you watch more episodes of The Hunting Party on NBC?
I think this is my stop on The Hunting Party. It kind of just made me want to read a thriller or perhaps watch a movie thriller. I think this would be an interesting movie, but as a show, I just don't think I could commit to watching this many twists and turns as part of my weekly entertainment. And I think if you're searching for a mystery thriller, if you are Mystery Thriller Hive, why not try this one out? Because maybe it'll be just like so absurd it's fun for you. But if you're not Mystery Thriller Hive, I don't think this is one that you might enjoy.
I also feel a bit lukewarm. I think I would watch an episode while cooking.
Okay.
It fills that NBC primetime procedural niche that you might want. It did make me want to go back to Alcatraz on Fox, which maybe they should just reboot that.
That little smile on your face. I hope they bring that back for you.
They won't.
All right. Well, why don't you take things from prison to Alabama?
You're talking about Clean Slate on Prime Video. This series follows Desiree, played by Laverne Cox, who's returning to her small town in Alabama to reunite with her father, Harry, played by George Wallace, after 23 years away. Harry is excited to reunite with his son and has no idea that his son is now Desiree, a proud trans woman. So, Mitu, what were your first impressions?
I really liked this show, and then when I looked it up, I saw that it was from the icon Norman Lear. It's one of the last shows he produced before he passed. And it feels like that because it's so funny, but primarily it was also really heartwarming. There's a closing scene in this episode that genuinely brought me to tears. But then while I'm tearing up, I am laughing through it. And that felt like the balance that they struck through the whole episode.
That is the Lear specialty. Hit you with the feels, but also have funny and like engaging characters.
Actual belly laughs.
Throughout, everyone. I would say a solid cast.
George Wallace is so funny. He has this exchange with one of the people who works at his shop, Mac, played by Jay Wilkeson, who is basically trying to help him understand how to be a better father to Desiree. And Harry uses the wrong pronouns. So Mac corrects him, and then he tells him, you know, when I came out of prison, my mom greeted me with a warm plate of food. If my mom can overcome that, you can share love for your child. And I thought it was just a beautiful thing. I don't know that we necessarily need to compare prison to just simply being who you are. However, I get it. And it was a very sweet moment. But he goes, when I came out of prison, and the way Harry goes, came out of where?
That $2 background check did not mention prison.
I laughed so hard, I had to fully pause my television. And then he also has this exchange with Ella, played by Thelma Hopkins, the icon. This is a show of lots of icons. And they have this back and forth about her taking the plastic off of her furniture and that being some sort of metaphor for growth. But just their exchange as two comedic legends talking about plastic and furniture, it made me laugh so hard.
And for people who grew up in certain parts of the South, it is a big deal that she would take the plastic off her furniture.
A very big deal. Or real ones know the plastic runners also that go on the carpet.
Protect the carpet.
Yep.
Don't actually use your furniture and carpet.
No. You have to preserve it. For what? I'm not sure, but you must.
And the formal living room that you only use at most once a year.
At most, that no one is allowed in.
No, for appearances only.
And then I also want to put some respect on Laverne Cox's comedy, because when Desiree went to sit in that second chair in Harry's living room, when she almost falls over, which was like a really beautiful metaphor for how lonely Harry's been, that he hasn't had a need to repair the second chair, but the way Laverne's limbs go everywhere as she almost falls, I also laughed very hard at that. It was so funny.
Good physical comedy. And I like that they're leaning into the small town element where Harry knows everyone. He's the car wash owner, and I guess everyone just goes to him to get their car washed. So he's got those connections.
The rumor mill scene where Desiree goes to meet with her friend at church, and then she hears the rumors about herself by the time she gets home for dinner, but she is so removed from it that she's like, oh my God, there's a what in town? Whoa. Like, sister, it's you. That was so funny. But I will say, you made a good point when we were sharing notes about this show that maybe some of the resolution in this first episode was perhaps a little bit unearned.
Yes, Harry is shocked because, as I said in the summary, it's been 23 years. They haven't seen each other. It seems they occasionally will email back and forth, but he had no idea what's going on with Desiree's life. And when she showed up, he opened up his arms hesitantly and quickly warmed up to her, which I think is good to show that when it's family, you can make those adjustments quickly. And it's a bit TV magic speed of how quickly they resolved it.
Yes. I mean, even Harry just immediately using the name Desiree, and he does slip up and he accidentally dead names her a couple times. But for the most part, saying Desiree, saying my daughter, for the most part, using the right pronouns when referencing her. It did seem like he adjusted pretty quickly. Now, we will see him slip up. We saw him slip up a few times in this episode, have trouble taking her seriously, some of the emotional resolve she's hoping to have, the therapy exercises she's hoping to do with him, some of that stuff.
It was a big ask.
It was a big ask. And so I feel like you and I are especially laughing because I'm picturing trying to do that activity with my parents. And I just don't know. I don't know if we could do that.
Same reaction. You want me to write a letter to who? Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that they played those really well. but I agree. He seemed a little too open to it. But it seemed like as the show progresses, we will see them take a step forward, take a step back. Like it'll be, a non-linear resolution, which feels realistic.
Exactly. They have to adjust to this new normal for them. Because it's 23 years. Any relationship, that's a long gap.
Yeah, no matter what it is, you're fully getting to know an entirely different person. Because Desiree was a child when she left, and she's an adult woman now.
Ran away, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Me Too, are you going to watch more episodes of this heartwarming, easy-to-watch, fun Norman Lear sitcom?
Absolutely. If your sitcom hive, especially heartwarming sitcom hive, you need to tap in and watch this again seriously ASAP. I can't believe this show flew under my radar. I think this was so lovely. I cannot wait to finish this. And the only reason I did not watch more episodes is because I watched it right before we were recording this, or I would have absolutely blown through however many I could have fit.
So our calendar event stopped you.
Yes.
At least you're honest. I would watch again casually. Like I said, it's easy to watch, and it was fun. This is a funny show, and I want to see more of Desiree reintegrating herself into her small town with the different personalities. We didn't have too much time to touch on her childhood friend who still lives there, and the very last scene hints at maybe a romantic interest.
Yes, I saw them make googly eyes at each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, Me Too. What was your question for me?
How long would you last in the woods in an extracted situation? How long could I keep you out there?
Long enough to win $250,000.
That's exactly why we're friends. That's exactly right. And I would be putting in work in that room. I'm sowing seeds of discontent. I'm sneaking the supplies, blaming other people like, oh, they snuck stuff. I'm fully lying.
You're starting rumors. I'm teaming up with people out there like, let's build a tent together.
Yeah.
I have 2 knives.
Oh, did you hear what he said about
Yeah.
Like we're making sure. Now, would we ruin families?
Yes.
But would we get you out of the woods in 5 business days or less?
Yes.
Exactly.
They signed up for that risk.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
It is what it is.
They'll bounce back.
Yeah, they'll make it. They'll just do the letter writing exercise we all learned about in Clean Slate.
Yeah, they won't have a check, so that's going to make it harder, but
they'll just have that much more time to reflect.
They'll have something to bond over, their shared disappointment.
Exactly. More money, more problems. Let us shoulder that.
We're doing them a favor.
Exactly.
Look at us. Well, if you want to see more examples of us just being great people and helping the world, charitable, you can find our reviews on our website at The Pilot Podcast, and you can follow us on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us on social media at The Pilot Pod, and you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, because every other week we do a show recommended by you, our wonderful listeners, to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.